Friday afternoon. Welcome in to Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Chris Yow, and joined today, as we've told you all week long, by the illustrious Wade Neely.
Keep it going. Keep it going.
Yeah, you're not. I was about to call you the illustrious potentate, but you know.
My list of accolades is right now. Good to be with you, my friend, on a good Friday indeed. Good to see you.
Yeah, man, it's so nice to finally kind of see the end of this weather pattern that we've had going for the week. Unfortunately, it certainly rained some games out around our areas, but otherwise, it's shaping up to be a nice Easter weekend here in southern Middle Tennessee, and we hope you guys are out there enjoying or getting ready to enjoy your weekend if you have not started already. Many of us have. I'll just say that. But yeah, it's exciting. We had a lot to get to today and a fantastic show. Jeff Him of the Nashville Sounds will be back. He's back and in the saddle out in Memphis. We'll find out where he's been eating this week and talk to Jeff about what's going on with the Nashville Sounds and the play-by-play voice of the Brewers AAA club. Also, we will talk a little Nashville Soccer Club. Our resident soccer guy, Wade here. He'll have to carry that interview because I don't have a clue. But I do know that the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open third round drawings have been made and have been announced. So we'll talk to Broadway Sports Media's Valer Shabilla at 3 o'clock about that. And we'll also get you up to date on baseball, the Masters, PREDS, and Grizzlies, all of that coming up here in just a few moments. But before we do anything else, Wade, it's time to give you today's results and this weekend's entire schedule. And we do that on the Rundown.
This is the Rundown.
Friday Rundown is brought to you by Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb and Associates. The voice of the Blue Raiders also wants to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Contact Chip at 615-542-1915. That's 615-542-1915. Or just go to choosechip.net. Chip Walters is proud to support youth sports across Middle Tennessee.
Results in baseball. Yesterday it was Stars Mill out of Georgia knocking off Beach 5-1. Science Hill a 9-0 win versus Davidson Academy. Good Pasture defeats Westfield, Indiana. That score was 11-8. Hume Fogg was a 9-4 winner over Hunters Lane. Grace Christian Franklin knocks off Middle Tennessee Christian by a count of 6-2. 10-0 was the score in favor of Riverdale as they defeat Rockvale. Siegel a 6-2 win over Blackman. In softball action yesterday, it was Eagleville 9, Cornersville 2. Sacred Heart Academy out of Michigan defeated Hendersonville 6-2 on the softball diamond. John Marshall, Ohio posts a shutout versus Station Camp, 1-0 the final there. Station Camp followed up that shutout loss with a 7-3 win versus Henry Clay out of Kentucky. And in boys soccer on the pitch last night, Blackman 2, Riverdale 0. John Overton 1, Franklin Road Academy 0. Providence Christian defeats Middle Tennessee Christian 4-0. Page also posts a 4-0 win versus rival Lawrence County. Rockvale 5, Stewart's Creek 2. White House 3, West Creek 1. And Zion Christian 5. And FC Boyd Senior Christian 0, Mr. Yow.
College baseball action yesterday. Vanderbilt continues their historic start in SEC play with a 7-6 win over Missouri. Florida downs Tennessee 6-1 in Knoxville. Austin P with a 6-2 win over Kennesaw State, and it took 11 innings, but Belmont falls to Southern Illinois 7-6. Middle Tennessee State doubled up Western Kentucky 6-3. In softball action, Tennessee blanked Mercer 11-0 before falling to Baylor 1-0. It took 9 innings for Belmont's women as well, but they get the win over Illinois Chicago 2-0. Charlotte took a pair from Middle Tennessee State 4-2 and 9-5. In Major League Baseball action, the Braves with the walk-off from Orlando Arcia, 7-6 winners over the Padres. And in NHL play, shocking everyone across the world, the Preds 3, Canes nothing. How about that?
Good win for the Preds last night. We go to your baseball schedule. A lot of games already underway, but these are the ones that are still yet to come. Again, coming down your schedule here in baseball action. Smyrna is at Green Hill this afternoon. Beach will go to Farragut. Portland travels to Friendship Christian. Davidson Academy goes to Heritage. And Christian County, Kentucky will travel to Rossview. John Overton is at Columbia, local game for us. Nolensville at Stewart's Creek. Alcoa goes to Lebanon. Powell will travel to Station Camp, and Mount Juliet taking on Bartlett. These are games that just ended or are currently underway. Still to come, you got Tees Valley. That's out of Ohio. They play Riverdale. White House will meet Sycamore. Stratford will play at McGavock this afternoon. Sale Creek will travel down the road to Summertown. Glencliff will visit Ezell Harding. Pacific, Missouri will take on Friendship Christian. Davidson Academy faces Lakeway Christian. Riverdale will travel to Rockvale. Beach visits Upperman. Columbia Academy versus Forest. Bartlett is at Clarksville. Riverdale's at Clarksville Academy. Liberty Creek at East Robertson. Whites Creek at Kenwood. Laverne at Blackman. These are all 6 p.m. starts now. Santa Fe is at Fayetteville. Ezell Harding versus Glencliff. Page will travel to Independence. Harpeth will travel to Lausanne at 6 p.m. Unfortunately, locally for me, it's a washout. Giles County was set to host Richland at 6 o'clock. That game has been called off due to Mother Nature intervening. Christian Community will travel to Westmoreland. Good Pasture versus Bradley Central. Hume Fogg is at Cheatham County. Pacific, Missouri at Hendersonville. Brentwood at Ravenwood. Houston at Rossview. Hillwood at West Creek. And rounding out the schedule tonight, 7 p.m. starts for Fairview at Mount Pleasant. 7:30 will go Loretto versus Middle Tennessee Christian. And rounding out your baseball schedule, Cascade at Summertown.
Tomorrow in baseball, you can catch White House and Friendship Christian at 9 a.m., as well as Tate's Creek, Kentucky, and Good Pasture. That's get up early for that one. Breakfast with with those teams. Gallatin's at Dixon County at 10, and Pacific, Missouri takes on White House Heritage also at 10. Lebanon is at William Blount. At 10:30 is Dixon County at Montgomery Central. At noon, Green Hill at Blackman, Stewart's Creek at Centennial. Houston is at Clarksville, while Oakland welcomes Wilson Central. At 12:15, Station Camp takes on Bearden. And at 1 o'clock, it's Harpeth at Lausanne and CPA at Lipscomb Academy. At 1:15, Lawrence County hosts Cascade. And at 2 o'clock, Tullahoma's at Rockville. Dixon County takes on Mount Juliet at 2:30. Also at 2:30, Sevier County and Station Camp. At 3 o'clock, McCracken County, Kentucky is at Clarksville Academy, as well as White House Heritage at East Robertson and Riverdale at Rossview. At 3:30, it's Innsworth at Christ Presbyterian. At 4:30, you can catch Hendersonville and Springfield. At 5 o'clock, it's Mount Juliet and Clarksville. Siegel hosts Columbia Central at 6 o'clock. At 6:30, Fairview is at Kenwood, and at 7 o'clock, Sycamore takes on Hendersonville.
Softball games today, starting at 1 o'clock. Oak Hills, Ohio, travels to Riverdale. 1:30 will be Joe Burns versus DeKalb County. Also at 1:30, Wilson Central versus Summertown. Switching up to 2 o'clock, Jackson County is at Westmoreland. Now we get into a bunch of games here inside the 3 and 4 o'clock window. Friendship Christian travels to Clarksville Academy. Hazel Green, Alabama, plays Green Hill. Oak Hills, Ohio, takes on Oakland. Knox Central plays Liberty Creek. White House travels to Beach. That's a 4:30 start. Also at 4:30, you have Independence versus Collierville. Forest versus Joe Burns. Beaver Creek, Ohio versus Nolensville. Brentwood is taking on Obion County. At 5 o'clock, Columbia will travel to Laverne. Eagleville travels to Community. Knoxville Halls taking on Liberty Creek. Beaver Creek, Ohio versus Beach. Hazel Green, Alabama versus Columbia Academy. DeKalb County versus Greenbrier. These are 6 o'clock starts. Brentwood will take on Lincoln County. Carnes out of Knoxville will take on Nolensville. Green Hill versus Summertown. These concluding our 6 o'clock games. And your nightcaps tonight, 7:30 starts. Independence versus Greenbrier and Carnes versus White House. Coming up on the docket, a short slate tomorrow. But again, like Chris said, you got to get up early if you want to catch West versus Liberty Creek. That's a 10 a.m. first pitch. Oak Hills, Ohio at Blackman at 11 a.m. And Hickman County travels to Columbia to take on the Lions at 5:30.
Boys soccer action. Clarksville Academy is at Clarksville Northeast tonight at 6 o'clock. Also at it's Merrill Hyde at Beach at 7. Also at 7, Wilson Central at Laverne, and White House hosting Springfield. College baseball action. These are weekend series. Most of them will conclude tomorrow. I don't think anybody's playing on Easter Sunday. It's Vanderbilt at Missouri, Florida at Tennessee, Austin Peay is at Kennesaw State. Belmont continues their series at Southern Illinois, while Lipscomb travels down to Florence to take on Tuna. Middle Tennessee State is at Western Kentucky. Kentucky Wesleyan doubleheader tomorrow at Trevecca. Campbellsville is at Cumberland, and UT Southern hosting Freed Hardeman. In junior college baseball, Columbia State is at Cleveland State, and Vol State is at Southwest Tennessee State. College softball action, Bellarmine's at Austin Peay. Charlotte and MTSU was canceled today, so do not expect results from that one. Belmont is still at the University of Illinois Chicago. Queens comes to Lipscomb, while Tennessee State is at Southern Illinois Edwardsville. Saturday doubleheader for Trevecca at Tiffin. Cumberland's at number 14 ranked Freed Hardeman, and the Firehawks of UT Southern welcome Lindsey Wilson. Junior college play, Columbia State still at Cleveland State, Vol State at Southwest Tennessee.
Major League Baseball action. The Padres will visit Hotlanta yet again, and the Cardinals will travel to Milwaukee. The Reds at Phillies, and the Astros and Twins going to get a game in after they were rained out yesterday. We've mentioned Jeff will join us a little bit later in minor league baseball action. The Nashville Sounds traveling to Memphis to take on the Redbirds. On the ice tonight, the Preds, after a big win last night, will travel tomorrow. Thank you, sir. Tomorrow we'll take on the Jets. I was feeling the good vibes. I just wanted to go ahead and get back on the ice today,
hey,
right?
Wish we could.
Absolutely. Tonight, though, big one in the association as the Grizzlies will host the Bucks, and tomorrow on Sunday, they will close their regular season. 2:30 p.m. tip-off on Bally's at the Thunder. MLS, we'll chat about the big NSC match versus Toronto, which comes your way over at 7:30 on MyTV 30. Big weekend, not just locally, but also regionally and nationally here, Mr. Yow.
That's it, and that will conclude your rundown, brought to you by Chip Walters. All right. That was actually a pretty short rundown for a Friday.
Okay. Well, it dawned on me when you said the weekend, and I was like, oh, boy, this could be outrageous. But because it's Easter, I guess. Yeah,
typically it's about 7 pages or so. Today it was only 5, so you got off easy. But I think a lot of it's because of those the games that took place yesterday, and a lot fewer results due to rainouts. So Monday should be a lengthy one.
Yeah, and I tried to tag the times on the upcoming games as best I could. I'll try and think of a way to remind myself to do those, because I was wanting to maybe just bunch them up. Hey, here are your 5 o'clock games, and then when it started where there's only 1 or 2, it kind of got a little squirrely there.
Yeah, so I try my best to get them in order from what time they start, so we can do that. That being said, when there's only one game at 3:30 and then there's one at 4:15, and it's really frustrating. And most of them are all tournaments right now. So it's like you're really it's an ish time anyway. So it's
that, and especially when you see the same team a couple of times, and I was like, oh, travels to so and so, and I was like, well, they're probably not traveling because they're probably
at one
at a
place.
neutral site, right? Exactly.
That always gets me whenever you see the same team twice or 4 times.
Like how, and it happens a lot in softball. The Saudi Daisy tournament is happening in softball right now, and so I know there are a ton of teams at the Saudi Daisy tournament now. I know Summit's out there because that's where their coach is from, but there's several tournaments going on right now across the state in baseball and softball. So check your local listings, find out where those teams are. Top story today, Wade. It's really hard for me to not just like say Mo, because I'm just so used to top story today. Mo is.
By the way, before we go any further, I love the addition to the photo for Mo in our back from break there with the sunglasses. He's on vacation / island time, and it's apparent with the sunglasses there. Yeah, love
very
that.
Nice.
You see his cruise ship there. He's literally on the cruise ship.
He's going to Orlando to sail out of the river.
We're not entirely sure, are we?
We'll see him when we see him, but we certainly wish him well and hope he has a much-deserved great vacation.
I don't know, man. I saw him post a picture earlier, and I'm just like, I'm not sure how happy I am for him at this point. Wet, nasty as it is out here.
Yeah, I'm not sure. If I share the same, oh my gosh, good for him. I'm more like, hey, why didn't you take us with you?
Hey,
it's only been one day. Give me another day or two, and I'm sure I'll share the same sentiment as you gentlemen before too long.
You know, and it's gonna be an interesting week next week. I'm not sure we've had a week, like a whole week, since his last cruise, and that was a while back. So looking forward to it though, Wade. We can figure it out. We'll make it work. And today's top story comes from the West Coast. The Pac-12 is continuing its search for a media rights deal and media rights partner. It just doesn't look like they're going to be able to find somebody. This is a little insane to me that a Power 5 conference is struggling so much to find somebody willing to broadcast college football games. Now, obviously, we know that the left coast is not nearly as college football crazy as we are here, but there are some teams that have national fan bases, and I'm a little shocked here that the Pac-12 can't figure this out.
Yeah, I guess I'm shocked, but also not surprised in a weird way. This just seems like it's been one fumble after another trying to just get this thing kind of done over the years. And it's really especially egregious when we're sitting here in the backyard, obviously with the SEC network and the ACC network that have gotten off to such great starts and just continue to kind of set the bar. So the Pac-12 network, and you're right. You know, I enjoy Pac-12 After Dark just as much as anybody else, but those few games, doesn't happen often, but there's a few games every so often throughout the year where the only place you can check it out is Pac-12 Network, and I go and I fumble through, maybe even poke around on the deep corners of the internet trying to find that game, you know, late at night, and it's really frustrating. And I'm with you. It just doesn't. It's just kind of hard to. It kind of blows my mind that they have not been able to just figure that out, get that solved yet, considering how many quality institutions are in that conference.
Well, and not just that, but the fact that they kind of have their own time slot. I mean, they can play at 9:00 when that last SEC game is ending. Your big game starts at 9 East or 9 Central even, and it's 7:00 there. That's perfectly fine. So I don't understand how there's not somebody in the linear TV market willing to take at least that. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's the only game they want. I don't know. But Jim Williams, a former media consultant, basically says that There's no way NBC, CBS, ESPN, ABC, or Fox can get to 50% because of all of the deals they already have on the table. So therefore, it's just it means that they're going to have to take what's left, and they're not willing to do that, and they shouldn't be. I mean, they still are the Pac-12 and still a Power 5 conference, even without that LA TV market in those two major schools. That being said, the deal that looks like is most likely is CW, who is apparently trying to get into the market. I mean, they've got the Live Tour, but they're trying to get into sports somehow. And oh, by the way, they have legacy TV stations in every major market in the country, all across the country. They've got legacy stations. So to me, if I'm the Pac-12, I'm all in on the CW.
I mean, it seems like they could do worse, right? Some deal with CW is better than the current situation that they have, which is kind of just seems like it crumbles year after year.
Whether it's Amazon or Apple or whatever,
exactly.
It's all streaming if it's not CW. And you can't just rely on streaming. I know most people can, but not everybody. And linear TV makes a difference.
Yeah, and like I said, there's been several times over the years that I get ready and it's 7 or 8 o'clock, like you've mentioned, and all the earlier games have concluded, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay, it's time to tap into a little Washington State, versus Utah or something of that nature, and then boom, can't find it, and you got to spend 20 or 30 minutes poking around on the web, or you got to just pull up. Even worse, the dreaded just box score and refresh is by far the least ideal scenario. So I hope they could get something figured out, because I'm a junkie and I enjoy checking those games out late at night, and I really just wish they could get something done. Maybe they will.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a break as Jeff Hemm's standing by in Memphis, in the Bluff City. So we'll talk to him about what's going on in the world of the Nashville Sounds. So stick around on Main Street Sports Day, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We'll be right back after this. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Attention Tennessee homeowners, we want to buy your house. Hi, we are Real Property Solutions, a local real estate investing group. We pay cash for all types of property, so you walk away with more money in your pocket because we eliminate any fees, closing costs, and commissions. Now the best part, we can buy your house as is, meaning you don't have to do a thing to your property. You get to take what you want, leave what you don't, and don't even worry about cleaning. We close on your timeline, whether that's 7 days or 70 days. Interested in selling? Just give us a call and we'll come out to your property and quote you a cash offer within 24 hours. Please call 615-527-8750. That's 615-527-8750.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back into the Lee Company studio on Main Street Sports Day, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yow, Wade Neely with you here on this Good Friday edition. Happy to have you with us as we go for the first time today to the Real Property Solutions Hotline. You just heard about them. 7 days or 70. They'll close on your timeline and buy your house as is. Leave what you want, take what you don't. Or take what you want, leave what you don't. You know, scratch that, reverse it. Just give them a call, 615-527-8750. And now we welcome in the play-by-play voice of the Nashville Sounds. You heard him on their commercial as well. You can't see the sights without the sounds. Jeff Him, what's going on? Welcome back.
Hey, guys. Good to be back with you for another year of some baseball conversation. Always look forward to it, and thanks for having me.
It's always our pleasure, Jeff, as you guys are fantastic partners in this, and now even more so. So we appreciate Nashville Sounds so much for all of their efforts in helping us keep bringing local sports to our listeners and viewers. Jeff, you guys are out in Memphis, currently 3-3 on the year after that early season stint with Louisville. And then, of course, however many games you've been able to get in with Memphis. I don't know how that's going to work out, but you know, it's always interesting this time of year because you're trying to deal with getting to know everybody. Everybody's kind of getting into the groove. And then you've got the home dates for just 3 days, and you got to go on the road. It's just kind of a lot. So how's everything kind of flowing right now? Just kind of getting into the groove.
Yeah, I think it's been a pretty good start from an on-field standpoint. I mean, the team is 3-3. They won the series against Louisville last weekend, and then have gone 1-2 so far here in Memphis. There hasn't been any movement yet as far as roster transactions. The Brewers are playing well. They're off to a great start, in fact. And so I think it's allowed the team to kind of settle in. You're right, the weather has not been ideal. Last Friday got rained out. Saturday was a doubleheader. Then they played Sunday, Monday the off day, then played in Memphis Tuesday. Wednesday got washed out, doubleheader yesterday. So I think part of what makes baseball is that most every day you're playing a game. And early in the year, when you've got a team trying to settle in out of spring training and get acclimated to a new city and all of the off-field stuff, it's always helpful when the baseball part of it becomes routine oriented. And that has been a challenge, I think, for the guys so far this year. But it's nothing that hasn't happened in previous seasons or that these guys haven't been through before. So it's not like it's some insurmountable thing in the grand scheme of it all. So they're playing pretty well. About half the roster is a returning sound from last year. Also, about half the roster played in the big leagues in some capacity last year. So it's largely a group that's pretty familiar with Nashville and playing for the Sounds, and some overlap too with guys who at least have been to the big leagues and now are trying to get back and stay there. So I wouldn't call it an old group, but it's not a super young team other than Sal Frelick and Robert Gasser in their early 20s. It's mostly guys in their mid to late 20s who've had some big league time, look, the Brewers again this year are expecting to be a contender in their division. So while they, of course, are bringing up young talent, and a lot of it's in Milwaukee right now with Bryce Terang and Joey Weimer and Garrett Mitchell, guys we talked, Chris, with you about a good amount last year, late in the season. They also need the depth at AAA, guys who might be coming in from the outside but have some big league experience, so that if they're called upon on short notice, they don't need the whole getting acclimated to the big leagues component. They can just try to go up and produce right away. So I think the Brewers have strategically built this Sounds team with that in mind. And I think we've got a good mix then to be successful. A combination of guys who are on their way up, and then a good combination of guys who are just trying to stick in the big leagues, not so much try to get there for the first time.
You mentioned Robert Gasser. Along with Jansen Junk, you guys have two of the best pitcher names in the history of baseball, right?
Yeah, and they're two of the prospects on the team. They got Junk from the Angels in a deal involving Hunter Renfroe this offseason, and then Gasser we saw a little bit last year after the trade deadline deal with the Padres and Josh Hader. So yeah, we've got Gasser and we've got Junk. We're not messing around with our starting rotation prospect names, Chris.
Intimidation factor high with
That's
you guys,
right.
if nothing
That's
else.
right. We got to face Junk, and then we got to face Gasser. That's not easy, and it's literally not easy because they're good on the mound. In addition to having a fun name.
Absolutely. And also, Jeff, I wanted to say thank you guys for the extra baseball that you gave us over the weekend. I was able to get out on Sunday, and between the two games, obviously on Saturday and Sunday, we made up some of those innings that we got lost due to Mother Nature, it seems like.
No doubt about it. If I'm talking about the guys getting acclimated, I should point out that each of the first three games went extra innings. So if there was any kind of rust or layover from spring training, you're right. They got that out right away, playing a little bonus baseball in those 3 days.
I guess my question now is mindset-wise, yes, trying to string together some wins. On an individual level, how are these guys approaching their games as we kind of try and sort through Mother Nature, what it's kind of dealt us this week? How are the guys trying to adjust and adapt what they're trying to bring to the table individually, knowing that roster call-up is potentially just, a game away?
No doubt. And I think that's what makes – look, I love big league baseball, and it's fascinating in its own way. AAA baseball is fascinating to me in a different way, and that is because you are truly – yes, in this case, the Sounds are playing as Brewers employees. But anybody around the game will say, these guys are playing for any of the 30 teams who might see something in their game and want to acquire them and get them to the big leagues. And if I were one of these players, I'd want to get to the big leagues first with the Brewers, but overall you want to get to the big leagues with anybody. So I think these guys, there's always a lot on the line at AAA. You're always the proverbial phone call away, and you just never know when another organization might see something in your game differently than the one that you're with. So there's always a lot to play for in that effort to get to the big leagues. And I think part of what happens with the I talked about trying to get into a routine early in the season. The rain outs, not getting games in is not helpful. But part of what comes with some of the cold, wet weather is that from the routine is as much about the early work and getting the on-field batting practice, taking some ground balls, some of the literal pregame work that these guys then will get into a routine of during the season. That gets disrupted a little bit too. Like Wednesday was supposed to be a noon game. They postponed it. The guys did, before the rain came, get out and get a little bit of work in, just trying to get what they need to do before the game done. And that can be a challenge in the weather. I know that Rick Sweet is looking forward to next week's homestand, not just because they're in Nashville in our home confines, which they love, but because each of the first 5 games in that series is going to be at 6:35, and then the Sunday game is going to be at 2:05. There's an opportunity over the next week for them, presuming good weather, hopefully that's the case, get out, take some batting practice, get guys into the routine of, okay, same time tonight, let's get ready again. Same time tomorrow night, let's get ready again. Had this series here in Memphis gone according to plan, it was going to be a 6-game series with 5 different start times. You're not only on the road, but then the pregame work gets, it's a different schedule. So this is a routine-dominated sport. It's part of what makes it special and part of what can make it challenging in a way. And early in the season, that makes it that much harder when the weather and the schedule aren't always doing you the favor that you would like it to do, so that these guys, to your point, Wade, can feel ready if something comes up, because they've had not just the in-game at-bats, but the pregame repetition and truly feeling like their game is where it needs to be to truly be ready should the big league team have a need.
Well, we certainly appreciate the routine of 6:35 starts and 2:05. I promise.
I do
you.
too. Look, I mean, as humans, I think there a lot of us like that, and not to mention trying to be competitive in a professional baseball game on the field. I would like that too, if I were a player, because I know I like it as a human and as a dad and as an employee. So
Exactly.
we all come at it from different angles.
That's right. One player, obviously, we want to get into. You mentioned that you got half the roster is guys that are coming back. You think about it, you've got guys like Keston Hira, John Singleton, who had a big year last year for the club. Ethan Small, let's talk a little bit about him, because obviously last year we were really excited about what he was going to bring to the team. Had a fairly good year overall, but not the kind of dominance that maybe the Brewers and the Sounds were hoping to see from him. And it looks like he may be, working into a bullpen role for the big club. So that's kind of where Rick Sweet has him working right now. What's the word on Ethan Small? Is that kind of still it?
Yeah, it's been fascinating. And he was a pregame show guest of mine the other day because you're right. Last year was largely positive. He made his big league debut, and he was part of a really good Sounds team. But by the end of the year, he was experiencing frustration as a ball player that he'd never gone through. He'd never struggled the way he did last year. His command just was not where he was used to. He was spiking his changeup a lot, and that's always been a dominant pitch for him. So he was kind of trying to proverbially find it last year. Ended up in the bullpen. You're right. He's back in a relief role this year. This is a West Tennessee native and a Middle Tennessee resident. For people who don't know the background, stand out at Mississippi State in the SEC. High pick, high prospect, a lot of expectation. And he would tell you that late last year, it was a disappointing finish to the season, and his command just wasn't there. Well, last Sunday at home against Louisville, he comes on to go lefty on lefty against a rehabbing Joey Votto, and then against another left-handed batter in Nick Martini. He struck out both of them. He threw 11 pitches, and every single one of them was a fastball. And I kept watching the StatCast, and fastball. So he was my pregame show guest on Tuesday here in Memphis, and he kind of smiled. He said, I didn't go into that outing expecting to only throw fastballs, but he said about 4 days ago, I finally feel like something clicked with my mechanics, and I rediscovered kind of who I had always been. And and then they weren't touching my fastball, so I just kept going with it. He had a really impressive first outing last Sunday, and he finally felt like something had clicked back to the Ethan Small that everybody knows he is. He pitched again here last night. He threw, I want to say about 25 pitches. 23 of them were fastballs. He mixed in 2 changeups. The command was a little bit uneven again, and you could tell he was fighting it again. So it's a credit to the work that he's putting in. These guys behind the scenes try to do anything they can to keep getting better. It also proves that baseball is really hard. And as he said to me the other day, everybody's going to struggle at some point in their career. You hope it happens early, and you hope you figure it out and get over it. But for a guy who's a first-round pick and always the best player on his team and always the prospect last year and still a trickle into this year has been an uphill battle for him that he's not used to. But he does feel like mechanically he's figured some things out to get back to the guy that got drafted in the first round and has been the prospect that he is. So I'm really curious to see how it plays out for him these next couple of months, because you're right, Chris, the Brewers, they would love to have him as a really good option to call on down at AAA. And you feel like he's right there on the cusp of being dominant the way he was early in the year. Starter reliever, I don't know what the future holds long-term there, but if he can figure out that command, his stuff is just absolutely filthy. He's an easy guy to root for with the work he's trying to put in to get this thing figured out.
Yeah, absolutely. Great dude. All right. Before we let you go, who is the guy that we need to be looking for this year? Who's going to have the big year that we need to be paying attention to and watch him while we can?
Well, right now, for me, that's Sal Frelick, first-round pick 2 years ago out of Boston College. Late last year, he was part of the wave that came up with Joey Weimer and Garrett Mitchell. They all got to AAA on the same day. Mitchell makes the big club again this year out of spring. Bryce Terang ends up making the club out of spring. And then Joey Weimer was with us for media day and then got called up the next day. So Sal Frelick is kind of laughing like he's the lonely guy down here, in the sense of like his buddies are all up there in the big leagues. The guy can flat out hit against any type of pitcher. He can get good wood on the ball, first round pick, top 100 prospect in the game. The Brewers have a lot of good outfield options. He is definitely one of them. We'll see what happens. He may not be here very long based on his talent, but there also needs to be an opening up there for Sal. But to your point of like who should we watch while we can? You always feel like you're a day away when you're watching Sal Frelick hit, a day away from a potential call-up. He's pretty fun to watch.
Guy's hitting 330 for his career in minor leagues, 13 homers, 81 RBIs, and 661 at bats. That's pretty darn good. So yes, watch Sal Frelick while you can here in Nashville, and you can do that starting on Tuesday, as the Norfolk Tides will be in town in Nashville, and lots of exciting stuff. But if you're going to go on Tuesday, don't bring your peanuts. Now, my question is, Jeff, how do you sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game"? Is there an edited version on Peanut Free Night? That's the question here.
Boy, that's a next level question. I honestly hadn't thought about that, Chris. Good for you.
Buy me some lemonade and Cracker Jacks.
That's right. There you go. Buy me some lemonade and Cracker Jack. Buy me some beer and Cracker Jacks. Buy me some hot dogs and Cracker
No peanuts
Jacks.
though. Don't bring your peanuts on Tuesday.
No, I look forward to it every year because I think of a kid who may not otherwise be able to go to a ball game with a severe nut allergy, and it's pretty special that a family could come out worry-free for one night, and a staple like ballpark peanuts for one night is not part of the equation. Well worth it if it gets a family out who normally cannot attend a major sporting event like that.
Yep.
Jeff, I hate to keep you here, but I have a quick question. I have
Sure.
gone off of the Nashville Sounds website and then back to it, and in the time that we have spent, the starting pitcher has changed. So it went from Jansen Junk to Colin Ray.
Colin Ray, yeah. There's really no great story behind that, other than somewhere along the line there was a mix-up in rotation that got relayed versus what actually maybe was supposed to originally get posted. Ray pitched the other night. Junk was after him, like the day after him. So we're going in the order of last week. There's no call-up story. There's no great behind the scenes like, oh, get this. It's pretty much just a basic mix-up, it sounds like. So we're all good.
Well, that was very weird because when I first went to the website, I was like, okay, Jansen Junk. All right, that's pretty cool. We'll talk about that. And then I just went to it, and there was a different guy. And I'm like, well, that's weird, but okay.
Yeah, Junk will go tomorrow. All is well.
All right. Well, Jeff,
Perfect.
all is well, and we appreciate you taking some time with us, man. Looking forward to this season, and we'll see you when you're out on the road, and looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. We'll see everybody next week at the ballpark.
All right.
Thank you, Jeff.
That is Jeff Him on the Real Property Solutions hotline. Again, whether you want to close in 7 days or 70, they can do it on your timeline. They'll buy your house as is. Give them a call, 615-527-8750, 527-8750. Sell your house today. Cash money, baby. Taking over for the 99 and the 2000s.
Now, Mo would approve. I'll just say that with the juvenile reference there.
Yes, he's a big fan of the late 90s hip hop. All right, we're going to take a break, continue talking baseball on the other side of it. Don't forget, though, a little bit later, we've got Valer Shabila joining us from Broadway Sports. But next, Braves walk it off. Astros get going in Minnesota tonight, but Minnesota's got some new digs. We'll talk about that too on the other side of Main Street Sports Day, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint, back to the Lee Company studio in just a moment.
Walmart Supply Chain is hiring in Lebanon. Earn up to $22.25 an hour when you join our new fulfillment center. Enjoy competitive pay and premium perks, including 100% paid college tuition, 401k match, flexible schedules, a free Walmart Plus membership that includes discounts, and free Paramount Plus, paid time off, and so much more. Fulfilling work starts right here. text JOIN to 240-240. That's JOIN 240-240 to apply now.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
This is Chris Yow with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. She's on Thinking Out Loud, presented by Regions, and Out of Pocket with Alyssa Lang. It is, in fact, Alyssa Lang.
I'm a little nervous. I'm going to lower the bar for guests now.
Oh, no.
Like, apologies in advance. It sounds like
SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey.
You got that radio voice.
I do.
It's a good sound.
Thanks for radio, too.
As do we. And then here's the other thing. You guys, you're spot on with the name. Everybody wants to be on Main Street. Everybody wants to be on Main Street. So,
and we reach every main street in Middle Tennessee, Coach.
Yeah, that's it. So
Perfect.
when you are on Main Street and you are moving,
you gotta love it.
Like you're moving. I was impressed.
I'm glad someone. Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. He's Wade Neely. I'm Chris Yow, and we are here in the Lee Company studio, and it is time for This Day in Braves History. If you'd like to sponsor This Day in Braves History, get at us. It's very, very fun, and we obviously do this each and every day. 2004 Braves rookie Adam LaRoche records the first two hits of his career in one inning. As Atlanta beats the Mets 18-10, the Braves scored 11 runs in the fourth inning that took 33 minutes to complete.
Yikes.
And as a bonus, a little Houston Astros history today, although it's kind of against the Astros. The Astros lost 3-2 on this day in 1984 as 19-year-old pitcher Dwight Gooden made his debut for the New York Metropolitans.
I'll take an L if it meant going down to a young Dwight Gooden back in the day.
You know, it is what it is.
I was surprised that that you brought up the Astros, and then when you said they lost, I was like, oh, no, that makes sense. So maybe Wade, you should bring in your own Astros history.
You might have to.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I was expecting a really nice celebratory fact of the day, and instead I just kind of got punched in the gut right there.
Well,
but I'll take it for Dwight Gooden, I suppose.
Well, the only reason that it's the only one that there was available to me when I Googled This Day in Braves History, there just happens to be some MLB history, and I searched, looked for Astros and found it, and that was the only one available. So apparently nothing good happened today ever in the history of Astros baseball. Nothing good has happened on April 7th.
That doesn't bode well for tonight then, I suppose, versus the Twins, right?
Well, and they've got some new digs out. I don't know if you've seen these, but they've kind of revamped their uniforms. They've gone to they've taken the pinstripes off the home uniforms. They do have them on their gray roads, but they're very light. A new kind of, not necessarily a new font, but they've kind of revamped the Twins logo, and they're going with that revamped TC on the ball cap. The T is kind of curved along the top of the C. It's really an interesting look, but the home uniforms are not the ones I'm really concerned about. It's the away hats. They have an M on their hat, And when I first saw it, I thought it was the Marlins because it looked like the Marlins M and they were playing the Marlins. And I was like, what in the world is going on? But it's got the North Star on it. So it's got this little red
yeah,
star
I see what you're talking about. Yeah,
just
it's very
atop the
confusing.
M. It's a very similar font, but you know what the font reminds me of? The Minnetonka shoe. That's what it looks like. So it's an interesting font. I think it's, you know, how they used to have one of the cooler M's in baseball. Kind of look like an M&M almost, but italics. So I don't know.
Versus the Marlins. Any other team except them, you can probably bust those out.
You can figure it out.
It tripped me out when I looked at it. You're right.
So, but I do like the North Star. That's an interesting little added bonus there. You remember the Minnesota North Stars of the old
NHL,
pro hockey
right?
days. Yeah, the NHL, and their farm team in Birmingham at one time were the South Stars.
Did not know that, but I like the branding.
I'm pretty sure the South Stars is who Gordie Howe scored his 1,000th goal against. I'm not entirely sure about that. Might have been the Bulls, the original Bulls, but I don't know. Anyway, got plenty of baseball to talk about. How are things in the Astros organization?
Well, they're not undefeated, so it's not great if you're the defending world champs. You know, you obviously expect you're going to come out and just go 162-0, but they're slowly piecing things together. They had they dropped a few to the White Sox, and then the Tigers stole one or two from them. So they're kind of toiling. Now, the real interesting thing, kind of like we just talked about with Jeff Him, is, you know, at some point you chalk it up to, okay, we're just trying to find our rhythm, trying to get into a routine at the start of the season. And then if you're not careful, you blink and you're 2 weeks into the season and you end up like, was it the Reds last year, where you're horrifically at the bottom of the standings. And Houston's talented enough, I think they could probably make up a lot of games, but you don't want to be giving away too many, because how many times we've seen, you know, the season comes down to 1 or 2 games at the end. And if you flash all the way back to April, you're thinking, man, would have been nice to win 1 or 2 of those games that we kind of didn't think much about at the time, but we ended up giving away.
Yeah, you know, it's not like you're in the AL Central where you can afford to be, you know, not great. Although, you know, outside of Seattle, I'm not sure how much competition there is in the AL West right now. I guess it depends on how good DeGrom is and how often he plays. But Kyle Tucker, 333 with 3 homers and 8 RBIs, and then Yordan Alvarez hitting the ball at a pretty solid pace right now as well. So this is, you know, it's just time. You got to give it some time to get back. And of course they'll go this afternoon at 3:10.
Talk about the random start times like Jeff was mentioning a moment ago.
And the Twins will trot out Smyrna legend Sonny Gray.
Wow.
Against was it Urquidy? I can't say this guy's name. Jose Urquidy?
Yeah, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to defer to you, my friend, because
I don't have a pronunciation guide in front of me. But yeah, Sonny Gray will go to the bump for the Twins in his first outing of the year. So how about that? I'm sorry, not his first outing. It's his second outing. He's 1-0 on the year.
Yeah, give the young man his win now. But you know, tonight as an Astros fan, I'll be hoping that the team wins. I'd like to see Sonny go, you know, maybe a nice quality start, but just maybe don't get the decision.
Maybe,
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, maybe late you guys pull through.
Yeah,
always
would love that.
You know, it is always interesting how, you know, when, like, if Ryan Weathers is pitching against the Braves or something, and it's tough. Like, it's tough to kind of, you want to root for Mookie Betts to do well, but the Dodgers to lose 162 games. Like, I hope Betts is an MVP candidate, but the team sucks. Like, that's just,
yeah. And those position players, obviously, you know, you can root for that scenario, but it makes it especially tough when you got a pitcher that you're a fan of locally.
Right.
You want to see, like I said, tonight I'd be okay if Sonny has, you know, 6 or 7 quality innings, and maybe it's a 0-0 game, and then when he gets lifted, the Houston puts a plate's a run or two, right?
There you go. That's all you can hope for. It's all you can hope for. Atlanta is at home again in game 2 of a 4-game set with the Padres. And today they'll be playing on Apple TV. So if you are looking for the Braves tonight on Bally, you will not find them. They'll be on Apple TV tonight. And on Sunday, they'll be on Sunday Night Baseball. So 2 of the 4 games against the Padres will be nationally televised events, which not surprising. You're talking about the AL West favorites and the 5-time defending NL East champs, or NL West favorites, and the 5-time defending NL East champs Braves. It just stands to reason that you'd have them on some nationally televised events. The Braves will have sent Michael Harris II to the 10-day IL with lower back strain after he went down hard on the slide into second base last night and was pulled as a precaution for Sam Hilliard. They have recalled outfielder Eli White to the big club, and tonight he will back up Hilliard, who is a left-handed hitter, against a right-handed opposing pitcher. You'll have Acuna in right, Olsen at first, Riley at third, Albies playing second base, hitting cleanup, Murphy at catcher, hitting fifth. Marcell Ozuna is your DH in the 8-hole, so Eddie Rosario in left. Arcia moving up in the lineup, going from 9 to 7 after that walk-off last night, playing shortstop, and Sam Hilliard will hit ninth as the center fielder, basically a second leadoff, while Jared Schuster will go for the Braves to the bump. Schuster, the only starting pitcher to have lost a game for the Braves at this point, who sit at 6-1 on the season, as you see there on your screen. Tough night for do what?
I was just getting ready to say, I had a good friend of mine that went down for last night's game, caught the game, had really good seats, looked like they had a great time.
Glad they were able to get in because it was sold out.
Yep, they were stunting on the internet with some of their pictures and videos. Looked like they had a great time and really good seats.
It's hard not to have a good time at Truist Park, in my opinion. Now, it's a little biased, of course, but
I will say that I might be one of the only people that would go against you there, but only in the sense, only time I've ever been, I'll make this real brief, was it was actually this weekend. It was the day after the Masters, and I was coming back from Augusta. Was fortunate enough to go in 2018, I believe this year was, and we decided to pop into Truist, and it was a great game, getting ready to take on the Nationals, and got tickets for a real reasonable price, and we get to the ballpark day game, and it is about 35 degrees and freezing and windy. And it was a pretty woeful experience. The sun didn't come out till about the 7th inning. Luckily, we were able to snag a seat down on the third baseline and catch a little bit of sunshine. But it was a tough look. I don't hold anything against the Braves or the park, but Mother Nature was unkind to us that day.
Clearly. That's rough.
It was brutal. And I'll never forget it, too, because it was the kids were out of school that day. It was bring the kids to the ballpark day. So the kids were screaming at the top of their lungs because it was just so freezing cold. And that's the last memory I have of Truist. But, again, and kind of like this weekend, we had quality temperatures, and then just whoosh, in the span of 24 hours, it just dropped off a cliff.
Yeah, no question. Hey, real quick before we get to our next guest, let's talk a little bit about the Masters since you mentioned it. What's the latest from Augusta? Brooks Koepka still atop the leaderboard, it appears. He's finished for the day, and he's 12 under for the tournament. Is Sam Bennett is an amateur, right? And he is
that's kind of
sitting at number 2. Holy cow.
Yeah, that's kind of been the big storyline, other than Koepka running away with it so far. Is Bennett has just been, man, he has been on fire. And your eyes do not deceive you, folks. That is an amateur sitting there in sole possession of second place.
That
Masters leaderboard.
That A next to his name, what was the low? I mean, you hear about the low amateurs, or the amateurs like that go into the Masters tournament and what they shoot, and they always like glorify the lowest amateur. The lowest amateur right now was on the leaderboard. That's ridiculous. I've never seen that ever in my life.
Yeah, usually we're sitting here debating. Hopefully, an amateur will make the cut. Maybe kind of
Exactly.
finish in the top 50 or something. But
airtime here.
we're looking at a top 10 at this point.
Right.
And
here's the worst part: no prize money.
That's rough.
If you ask him, though, I bet he does not care about.
Does not care. Let me take a green jacket home. I don't know if they even let him have the jacket, but by God, let me have a. You know what? The Augusta National should just sponsor an NIL deal and pay him whatever his winnings would have been. That's pretty smart, right?
Tied for second. Tied for second with John Rahm and just trailing Brooks Koepka. Imagine if we'd have told you that going into the week that there'd be an amateur sitting there at second after 36 holes of play.
Well, especially considering that this, if there were an amateur sitting there, it's not Sam Bennett that you're thinking. You're thinking it's going to be Vanderbilt's Gordon Sargent, and Sargent is not having a good tournament.
Yeah, I thought about our segment the other day because we had penciled him in as a guy to maybe that win that low amateur round, and I was following him yesterday and today, and it has not been a great run thus far.
Finished 4 over today, 5 over yesterday for a 9 over total, and likely not to make the cut. He is, however, tied with Louis Oosthuizen, so you don't feel so bad when guys who have won major tournaments are next to you on the leaderboard. You just go, you know what? Maybe it's just not my day.
Speaking of Brooks, sorry,
go ahead. No,
I was going to say, speaking of Brooks Koepka, what a headline this is. Brooks Koepka goes from trying to punch out a car window after missing the cut last year to almost to be like winning it.
Well, there you go.
I didn't know
be a wild turnaround. The real interesting thing to be, like we had with our segment earlier this week, is now that the weather is about to flip. Those guys that got to go off this morning, they might have got the last little bit of nice weather for the rest of the weekend. And that was the interesting thing. I was watching some of that before the show. Koepka finishes 5 under today. If he'd been able to get another stroke or two, not going to say it'd be out of reach, but man, unless he implodes, it'd be really tough to catch him. But he's sitting there at 12 under. And I guess the question now is, how bad will the weather get and start impacting things at the rest of the weekend?
Definitely. And it looks like he left a couple out there to make too, which is insane to me that you can shoot that and then still leave some birdies out on the field.
Yeah. I mean, it could be worse though. You could be 3-putting every time you get to the green like Tiger yesterday. So it's, just go out there and deal with this weather. I don't know what the weather's going to be like the rest of the weekend, but Sunday's supposed to be pretty nice here. Hopefully it will be in Augusta so we can sit there on Easter Sunday, watch the Masters final round, watch a little Bristol dirt race, and enjoy the day.
What a juxtaposition there. The Masters and a dirt race at Bristol, right?
I think the Bristol dirt race is a night race. So, and I don't know that to be a fact because it's 6:00 start. So you can watch the rest. You can watch the end of the Masters and then catch the race with no problem.
Who do y'all got? Who do you know? I was going to say, who do you know that has the range to watch both of those events in the same day? That's awesome. I feel like I'm talking to one of them right there, Mr. Yow himself.
I will 100% be watching both of those. There's no question.
The Venn diagram is very small in those two markets. I feel like.
It is, in fact. It's just a barely overlap. But all right. Well, we're going to take another break because we have Valère Shabila of Broadway Sports and Pharmaceutical Soccer, I think is the name of the podcast. We'll talk to him right after this on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid Tennessee Bone and Joint. Y'all stick around. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Attention Tennessee homeowners, we want to buy your house. Hi, we are Real Property Solutions, a local real estate investing group. We pay cash for all types of property, so you walk away with more money in your pocket because we eliminate any fees, closing costs, and commissions. Now the best part, we can buy your house as is, meaning you don't have to do a thing to your property. You get to take what you want, leave what you don't, and don't even worry about cleaning. We close on your timeline, whether that's 7 days or 70 days. Interested in selling? Just give us a call and we'll come out to your property and quote you a cash offer within 24 hours. Please call 615-527-8750. That's 615-527-8750.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yow and Wade Neely here with you on this Good Friday edition of the show. Happy to have you guys as we continue to get you ready for the weekend ahead. PREDS, big weekend. Grizzlies, big weekend. Could also be a big weekend for Nashville Soccer Club, although a little less, I guess, stressful than the other two who are ending their seasons as Soccer Club kind of getting going in the middle of their year. But a lot to talk about with the Nashville Soccer Club, because not only do they have a home match this weekend at Geodis Park out at the fairgrounds in downtown Nashville, but also the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open opponent was announced yesterday for the third round. So we'll talk now to Broadway Sports Valère Shabilla. And Valère, I apologize for misspelling your name on the title card, but I did get it right on the lower third. So
that's fine. That's fine. You're not the first or the last to misspell the name. It's all good. Close enough. My
last name is Yow, and so I understand misspelling and mispronunciations of names. So I apologize.
No, it's all good. And thank you for saying it right. That's actually more important. So thank you for that.
That one's on Wade. He got your contact info from the folks at Nashville SC, and they sent a voice message to make sure we got it right. But thankfully,
we wanted,
it's nice.
We wanted to make sure we hook you up, and Matt Bodiford, our good buddy up there, he took care of you. So we wanted to make sure you were taken care of, my friend.
Thank you, and thanks to Matt.
Well, we appreciate you taking some time with us today. Like I said, big match tomorrow. Toronto's in town at Geodis, but also, again, the U.S. Open opponent has been announced, and it's the defending USL champion out of San Antonio. So a lot kind of going on right now in the world of Nashville SC.
Yeah, it's really exciting. A lot of what we talked about coming into this season was okay. Nashville in the first season was the first couple seasons they had something to look forward to, right? Whether it was coming back for the MVP season or their first ever season in the league, and then even last year they had the Geodis Park opening. So there was always something kind of a big deal and a big event happening. And a lot of the talk was that we're missing some of that this year, right? There isn't any huge sort of line item. There wasn't any sort of big signing or anything like that. But what we have seen out of these few home games that Nashville SC has had is that they are there is still that excitement. You can see it in the attendance numbers. You can see it in the amount of folks engaging in conversation. And, I hate to say this, but with the PREDS not being the best at the moment and the Titans season still not starting yet, I think a lot of folks are turning their attention a little bit more to Nashville SC, which is what we like to see. Obviously, from a soccer guy like myself, this is kind of what we love seeing. But day to day, we're seeing more and more interest in Nashville SC from a fan perspective, and then from the team perspective as well. This is a team that's made the playoffs every single year, even if you go before MLS into USL. So there is that success on the field, and maybe there aren't trophies yet, obviously, but there is that successful team. And chances are, if you go to an NSC game at home, you'll see them win. I mean, last season was a little bit of a different beast, but overall, they've had a really successful go at this league.
Larry, I want to, since you did mention the draws, that was kind of a question that I had kind of circled here, is obviously a point anytime you can get one is great, but it seems like the last couple of years we've had to settle for those draws, whether it's giving up a late goal when we had the 3 points in the bag. And I'm just curious, how much emphasis is that? How critical is that going to be to convert those, those 1 points into 3 this year? Because it seemed like Nashville had kind of been snake bit with a few of the results the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, I think it's hugely important at home. When you're looking at home results, this is a place where when Nashville SC played at Nissan Stadium, they were borderline unstoppable. They didn't lose many games. They drew a few and they won a lot of them. But for some reason, when they made the transition to Geodis Park, things have kind of taken a turn to not to the best results. I think draws away from home are just fine. You go away from home, especially in some of these areas, like last season they had to go to Houston, which is just, Houston in the summer is not great to play soccer in. New England, they have one of the worst fields in the league. So those places, when you go there and you come up with a draw, you're good. You go in, hope nobody gets injured. But I think they really need to start capitalizing on these draws at home and turn them into wins. Because that's kind of that's the home field advantage. That is what you want to happen. And I think, like you said, they came close a few times last year. And what we saw last season that kind of turned those wins into draws or draws into losses, even at certain points, was that mistakes from experienced players and mistakes that we just didn't see the first couple of years of Nashville SC in MLS. Most of those players were dependable players, and they rarely ever made those errors that caused the goals. It wasn't that Nashville necessarily was playing bad. It was just kind of individual mistakes that happened throughout those last stretch of matches that caused those draws and at some points losses, like the game against Toronto last year, actually, here at Geodis.
Absolutely, and that's one thing. I totally agree with you. You grab a point on the road. That seems to be the tried and true rule. You'll take that, especially in some of those hostile environments. I'm curious now. Haven't had a chance to get up to Geodis just yet, and unfortunately won't be able to make it this weekend. But who's a newcomer or someone that maybe was on the cusp last year that could become a household name by the end of this season for NSC?
I think it's Jacob Schaffelberg, 100%. Jacob Schaffelberg came into NSC on loan from Toronto, actually, at the second half of last season. And he's kind of instantly became a fan favorite, really, based on his contribution to the goal scoring, whether it's assisting or scoring. But simply, if you see him on the field, you just see him run that left side, and the defenders just can't catch him. He's somebody who plays with speed, fits this Nashville system perfectly. And then this season, he's already scored. He knows how to find the back of the net. But just like I said, he's really good at assisting and finding his teammates as well. So Jacob Schaffelberg, he's a Canadian player, came from Toronto. He couldn't find the minutes he needed in Toronto. He was kind of backup to a backup really there. But coming to this Nashville system, he's really found his own path. And, when he first signed for Nashville, again, it was on loan. It was a 6-month period. Everybody thought that he will contribute, and everybody thought that he will see the field for Nashville more so than Toronto. But no one expected this sort of performances from him, and no one expected him to be a mainstay on the first 11. And he's proven that he's worth that. So I think by the end of the season, you'll hear Jacob Schaffelberg name a lot more than what you've already heard of him so far.
It's kind of like the Ely Tolvanen situation from Nashville to Seattle, where he went to the Kraken and turned out to be a pretty darn good player. And so you're seeing that here with Jacob in Nashville, kind of finding his own. And sometimes that's, I like to call it a change in environment, not a change of scenery necessarily, because sometimes environments just aren't great for some players, and you get to a different type of organization that runs things a little differently, and you flourish. And so it's great to see what Jacob Schaffelberg has been able to do. Now, you guys coming off that 1-0 win against Orlando, trying to build on this momentum right here. What's it going to take to get a win against Toronto?
It was 2-0 against Orlando.
Was it 2?
Okay. Yeah. They got another one towards the end there with Hani Mukhtar scoring, actually his first goal of the season. But for Toronto, they are a team that is full of talent. They have a lot of stars, and they're managed by one of the most successful coaches in MLS history. So you would think that they would be better so far this season, but they are one of those teams who have the talent, and you can see it in their players and where they've played and how they are playing now, but they just haven't figured it out yet. And they tried last season, but they haven't really gotten that chemistry going on. And one of the reasons they couldn't figure it out is, one of the sort of results of that was Nashville getting Jacob Schaffelberg, just to bring it back to that. So when you look at Toronto, they've given up a good amount of goals this season. They've been kind of poor in the second half. So that is something that Nashville's going to target. And I think mainly what you want is for Nashville to figure out how to play with the ball at home, because what Toronto's going to do is probably what teams have figured out is that if Nashville has the most possession of the ball, they seem to struggle to figure out what to do with it. But when they are in transition, Nashville are deadly. So I think what Toronto's going to do is sit back a little bit, let Nashville play with the ball. And, from a Nashville perspective, what you want is one or two sort of special plays from your players, whether it's Hani Mukhtar, whether it's Jacob Schaffelberg, Fafa Pico. Those are the players that make something happen. And you want something to happen there, and maybe it's a few passes, stretch of passes. Maybe it's a moment of magic from one player, and Hani Mukhtar is known to do this. If you watched any of Nashville SC games last season, so that's going to be the main focus here, and to hopefully get a goal early on and kind of set the tone, because you are at home, and the last game at home was against Cincinnati, and they lost 1-0, and it just didn't go Nashville's way at all. They had 15 shots in the first half and 0 goals. So you definitely don't want a repeat of that. If you can get on the score sheet early, that will set the tone a little bit. calm the nerves, and then maybe from then you build up to it to the end of the game.
Talking with Valair Shabila here about NSC big match versus Toronto. Valair, some of that star power you mentioned. I mean, Michael Bradley is still rolling for Toronto FC, and I'm just curious. We know he's obviously had that decorated run with the U.S. national team, but what does he still bring to the table, especially in a league like the MLS, where it seems like he's just been thriving for so long?
Well, for him, it's more about leading the young players around him and kind of introducing the league to all these players that come from outside the league. So for Toronto, for example, Insigne and Bernardeschi, those are two big Italian names, obviously, that came to the league. They're still new. They don't understand these players have played in real high intense environments in the top division in Italy, but MLS is different. Whether it's traveling 12 hours to get somewhere, whether it's the pitch you're playing on, whether it's the other players being physical around you, there are all these things that MLS has that these other leagues don't have, whether it's better or worse. And Michael Bradley is really good at that. Michael Bradley is good at introducing that, and he's, like you said, one of the most known sort of players for that. But what we've seen from him the last few seasons is that the older he gets in age, the kind of further back he goes on the pitch. I feel like next season he's just gonna be a center back at this point. I don't know. Like, he just seems to kind of sit back, let the players in front of him do the playing, but still kind of manage the game from an infield position. Kind of what people like to call him is an on the pitch coach. He's the guy who's applying the coach's idea, but on the field. And kind of making sure that everybody around him is doing the right thing, and he kind of gets to sit back and dictate how the play goes in front of him.
Yeah, always fun to watch him, and I just will never forget those heat maps of him just covering so much ground. And you're right, he's kind of having to retreat. I'm also real curious. Chris kind of touched on it. U.S. Open Cup, especially taking on a very talented team in San Antonio. That's obviously you'd love to maybe nab one of those first few trophies if you're Nashville, it seems like, and this could be a prime opportunity to get a good win and kind of get that campaign started.
Yeah, U.S. Open Cup, it's one of my favorite competitions. It's one of the oldest competitions in the world, really, and definitely the oldest competition here in America and North America. So, like, Nashville has a really good chance of winning this because really it takes about 4 or 5 games and you win that trophy. And what that gives you, obviously, is a trophy. It's a boost. You get to celebrate it. You get to bring the city into it. But the other thing is that it gives you a spot to compete in the CONCACAF Champions League. And that in itself, Nashville having intercontinental games would be a big deal for this franchise, which is, a fairly new still franchise. So not only is the trophy in itself important, but obviously what you get with it as well. In terms of prize money, it's not really anything to write home about. But again, it's the prestige that you own. It's bringing the city in and kind of celebrating winning a trophy. If you remember, obviously, you both remember how the PREDS, that run to the Stanley Cup final, changed everything about the PREDS with this city. I'm not saying the U.S. Open Cup will be like that because it's still not MLS Cup, but there is a hype around it and there is a buzz around it. And you can definitely bring a good amount of best example is Orlando, who just won it last year for the first time. And that was their first ever trophy in nearly a decade in MLS. So the way they have responded after winning that has been really great. And obviously, the opportunity to play in the CONCACAF Champions League, I think it's very important and very, very just cool, really, to see, because if you do win that, then you get to compete in the Club World Cup. But I'm not going to get too ahead of myself, obviously. But I just think that opportunity it's a really awesome thing for a young franchise like Nashville.
They will play April 26th at Geodis Park against San Antonio FC. Should be a lot of fun. Valair Shabila on the Real Property Solutions hotline with us here. Again, Real Property Solutions, whether you want to close in 70 days or 7, they can close on your timeline and buy your house as is. Give them a call, 615-527-8750. Valair, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate you taking some time with us, especially on short notice. And but obviously with the news kind of coming out today, and it was kind of important that we get something going on. So thank you for taking some time, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you talking soccer, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Wade, we have a special guest coming to us from way down south. Is the man Mo Patton.
Oh my!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, Mo. Oh, we can't. Hold on, he's muted. Hang on.
There we go. How about now? I had myself.
Yeah, there you are. What's up?
Yeah. No, it is indeed a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It doesn't get much more beautiful than this. And Chris, to answer the question that we had earlier this week, so we flew into Orlando, but we are going out of Port Canaveral, which is about 45 minutes east, obviously. So you're right. Orlando does not have water, but Port Canaveral and Cocoa Beach does. So
hey, that's
our current. Here, hang on a second. I'll pull a chip on you.
Oh, Chip Walter. Yeah, he pull a Chip Walters on us and show us the beach.
That hurts right now.
There's a heck of a view, Mo. You know what makes this an even more beautiful day in the neighborhood, Mo?
What's that?
Jeffrey Simmons, 4 more years, $94 million, 66 guaranteed. Just announced moments ago, Jeffrey Simmons will be a Tennessee Titan for at least the foreseeable future.
Oh, that's amazing.
I thought you were going to refer to the 7-6 Orlando Magic from last night, but no, that does make it an even better day. I had not heard that, so thanks for breaking a little news to me. You know, when you get out of the area and on vacation, it kind of throws you into a little bit of a vacuum. So that's great to know.
Oh, what a great way to end the
Hey,
show.
I just want to tell you, hey, great get with Belair in the last segment there. That's some good stuff. I know Wade is a huge soccer aficionado, so that's good stuff. Hopefully we can continue that.
Yeah, keep him in the Rolodex for sure.
Yep.
Fantastic guest. And we've got the Preds last night getting a big 3-0 win. They go to Winnipeg tomorrow. And then Monday they have Calgary. If they win against Winnipeg, technically, at least for a few hours, they will be back in the playoffs. Now, if Calgary wins later that night, they will overtake the Preds. But the Preds could technically be in the playoffs for at least a few hours with a win tomorrow, but a win on Saturday and a win on Monday, and they are firmly in possession of a playoff spot. So things could get dicey this weekend. Should be a lot of fun there, along with the Memphis Grizzlies, who are looking to clinch the number 2 spot, and they just got to have one win to do it. They got to win either tonight or on Sunday, and should be a lot of fun. Heck of a weekend ahead.
Yeah, a lot to look forward to if you're a local sports fan, between the Grizzlies, the Preds, and the Braves trying to continue their run for 161-1.
Wow. What are your expectations this weekend, Wade? Obviously, you will not be partaking in the cruising, but what you got going on outside of watching the Masters?
Well, before we go any further, I want Mo to hear this and point this out. At the top of the show, I said, it's a well-deserved vacation for Mo, and I hope he has a great time. And JK and Yow came straight back with, I don't know, I'm a little, I wish I was at the beach
jealous
right now. So a little envy was running high with these two guys. I had your back, though, my friend.
I wouldn't put it past Mo, though, to be on here.
I'm wearing my green.
Make us more jealous.
Yeah,
I'm wearing now that I've seen the view, however, the envy is starting to creep in with me as well. So that's short-lived right there, my friend.
Join us, Wade.
It was fun while it lasted, Wade. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. As far as this weekend, I'm actually headed over. A friend of mine is getting married in South Carolina, going to be kind of near Augusta. And if it gets so cold that tickets go under $400, I'll consider going on Sunday. But I think they were still sitting tight at about $1,800 to $3,000 the other day. So I doubt I'll be popping in this year on Sunday.
Just pop into Augusta. I wish it was that easy. Oh, but again,
it won't be. Trust me.
We'll have Wade all week next week, and we'll have a lot of fantastic guests, just as we did today with Valaire Shabilla and Jeff Him of the Nashville Sounds. It's going to be a fantastic weekend ahead. So when we come back on Monday, we'll react to all of it on Reaction Monday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint in the Lee Company studio. It's time now to say farewell. And since we have Mo, we'll let him do the honors.
Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.